time. All right, let's talk about this, the future of Montreal's metro system. It may not just be underground anymore. It could soon be rising into the skyline. New report says Montreal seriously looking at building more residential and commercial towers directly above metro stations. We've heard this talked about for quite some time. It's a major push towards transit-oriented development and new housing construction. So Quebec has already approved one major project tied to the Blue Line extension, a 19-story development with roughly 500 housing units. Let's talk more on this subject with Luciano Diorio. He's president of CDN Quebec. Luciano, welcome back to the show.
Good morning.
So, what does this smell like to you? It smells like opportunity to me. What does it smell like to you?
Absolutely opportunity, and opportunity for the group so the STM, of course, runs the metro and the buses throughout the island. And they have a company called CJAD, which is basically there to monetize and commercialize some of the activities of the metro. So if you see some of the billboards in the metro and on the buses, that's managed by CJAD. But they also have another division which they want to develop with private developers to, like you said, build above ground. So not underground, but build above ground over their metros. And one of the things that when I saw this story, Elias, it made me think of Walt Disney. And Walt Disney, when we read about Walt Disney, one of his biggest regrets is when he built the Disneyland in California, he regretted not having acquired more land so that he can control, the theme park and everything that went around the theme park. He can basically control it all. And I think this is, I guess we got to see it like this. And Maha Clore, who runs the Transesco division of STM, basically sees this as a gold mine. And she's been quoted as saying, this is a gold mine.
Mm-hmm. It's a gold mine, in fact, right? Especially when you look at just how many new metro stations are coming on the Blue Line. The 19-story development I mentioned, that's going to be at the future Cezida Parisotto station in St. Leonard. But there's also here, Luciano, a look at current metro stations that right now have nothing above them and are sitting on prime real estate that could also see housing. Let's talk a little bit about that. What are some prime targets here?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that one of the targets would be stations that are closer to the downtown core, and some of them that are you think of like Saint Laurent Metro Station off of the Green Line. It's basically just a vast, I don't even know how to describe it. I don't want to call it a park. It's got gravel. It's right in the heart of the Quartier des Spectacles. And so that might be something there, given the fact that there's other development that's happened in the area.
I just want to highlight, Luciano, something you bring up there. Like, it's my entire life, that area around Saint Laurent Metro, they've done nothing with it. It really is. It's gravel and there's bike racks, right? And you just think, like, why haven't we done something with this land up until now? It just seems so perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it just wasn't there, right? I mean, the Quartier des Spectacles wasn't developed as it is developed now. So I think that things are developing around it. So the timing is right to kind of start looking at this. The other one is if either the eastern extremities and the western extremities of the Green Line, I can think of 4 or 5 metro stations along the Green Line on the eastern side that can certainly see some densification of those sites. You think of Henri-Beaugrand, Radisson, L'Angelier, Cadillac. I mean, those are some of the stations along the extreme east, and on the west would be the same thing. Now, there are some issues with some of the stations are like in a park, or at least some of those entries are in a park or near a park. So it's they're going to look at it. I think they've identified like 13 or 14 stations where they say, oh, this might be something to look at.
We're with Luciano Diorio, president of CDN Global Quebec. We're talking about building condominiums and housing above metro stations. Now, I said condominium off the top, Luciano, but I wonder if the market has already turned where what we're talking about here is rental units. What do you think will be built on these metro stations?
Well, I think it'll take some time. I think we've got to see how the Blue Line progresses. Some of those units that are going to be coming up, as you mentioned, along the Blue Line. So I think they're just, the Transesco is just getting ready to see, okay, how can we develop these, and over the next little while. So the market's going to dictate. I think we've seen a lot of rental units come up over the last little while. So will that continue? I mean, it'll depend on, of course, immigration. It'll depend on just on demand, especially in those areas. But people want to be connected to, transit-oriented, as you said, transit-oriented.
But that's just to what you brought up there. Like, people, this is what people want. Like,
yes.
People want to live right on top of a metro station.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, getting up in the morning and you kind of just, make your way, don't have to deal with the elements of the weather, and you can do all your grocery shopping and anything you need, and of course make your way to work, all kind of protected from the elements, and not necessarily have to have a car, at full-time use. So you can maybe borrow a car when you need, or you can rent a car as you need it, but not necessarily have to use it especially if you're living above transit.
Is there any government funding? Like, I know the federal government was big on this, like, we're going to build more housing near public transit. Is that part of the push? Like, are the conditions right now for government support on projects like this?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think the conditions are right to, there's only so much land on the island, and you want to be well located, and these are well located, and there's potential here. We said like gold mine. It's the revenue that this is going to generate for the transit authority, because of course they took a hit during the pandemic, and they're always scrambling for new money and new funding. And we saw with the strikes that happened over the last couple of years, the transit strikes. I think they're just trying to find ways to monetize.
And Luciano, this is safe, right? I have listeners writing notes like, is it safe to put a housing on top of a metro tunnel? That's not a concern, is it?
That's an interesting question, because I think that in the past we've had some issues with building in and around metro lines, and I'm going to assume that the engineers that are behind this are looking at this. We're talking about the existing metros, of course, because the new ones are being built with this in mind. But the existing ones, a great question.
Listen, the Olympic Stadium is on top of a metro line, so I'm sure it's fine. But you're right. We'll have to rely on the engineers on this one. Luciano, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Luciano Diorio is president of CDN Global Quebec.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.